Morning, everyone. How you doing? Hope you're all well. I'm all good to go. I've got my coffee here, my 2 gram to give a damn cup, which was my other halves, but coffee tastes so good out of this cup. I've made it mine now, so I now am 2 gram to give a damn. Just off my second night shift, so on to day 3 of 100 dreadful videos before hopefully one is half decent. So I wanted to do a really quick video to talk about like a specific point, something which is in my mind today, and that's about false endings. So I'll give you an idea. When I was training for my cage fight a few years ago, towards the end of the camp, you start raising the intensity of the training, and I really put a lot of pressure on myself to get in shape for it. And to be honest, I think I possibly was a little bit overtrained. I was quite exhausted, but you would do these things where you would increase the intensity of the spars. You would face a fresh opponent that would get in every 3 minutes, trying their best to knock you out, trying to bring you to exhaustion. They were really in no way pleasant whatsoever, but it was that whole idea that the fight's never going to be as bad as the training. It was really trying to bring you and indeed break through those exhaustion points. And I knew how many of these experiences I had to do along with my runs and other things to get me down to the point where I was ready for the fight. And when I had my last one, we call them shark tanks. When I had my last one, I had this fantastic breakthrough. I had all these kind of different injuries, but the second to last person that I fought after I finished, I kind of had like a panic attack in the ring, and I was done. I couldn't catch my breath. I was really panicking, and I'd said to Andy, I said, I'm done, I can't do any more. And he didn't have any of it. He told the guy, get in there. He said, you're not done, you need to break through this. And ultimately I did end up having this fantastic, I don't know if any of you have experienced it before, when you are completely exhausted and then all of a sudden you just get this energy from somewhere, the fear goes, and you have this amazing moment, which I had, and it felt great, and I was done. These experiences, these shark tanks that I was going through was done. My hard training for the fight was done, and I was so thankful because I really didn't know if I was going to be able to get through the training at my age. Everyone that I was training with was, 15, 20 years younger than me. And I remember going back that night, seeing my kids, making a little bit of food, and I'm just feeling this relief that I'd done it, and looking forward to the fight and feeling ready. And the next day I had a phone call with Andy, my friend and instructor who runs Trivium MMA, and he was saying about how amazing yesterday was, and everyone in the gym really caught on the energy. And I was thanks so much. And he said, now start thinking about your last Shark Tank that you're going to be doing in a couple of days. And I went, wait, what? No, that was my last one. That was my last one. And he said, no, I'll tell you when the last one is, and your last one is on Tuesday. I think it was Saturday when I spoke to him, and I kind of just lost it. I said, no, we had this all down to the start. I'm done. And he was very much, well, that sounds like a very weak Martin speaking. You're not done. And do you know what? I remember hanging up that call and just sort of slumping in the corner in my kitchen, like just completely devastated because I had attached an endpoint to something which ultimately didn't happen. Anyway, this final Shark Tank I did, and I was really bad. I didn't even make it through the whole thing. Someone caught me with a leg kick and I crumbled to the floor because just the accumulation of leg kicks over all this time. And I was completely knocked. And then my phone call that night with Andy was, he said, I needed you to have this experience. I needed, because he said the other day you were brilliant and then yesterday you were dreadful. You now know what both of those experiences feels like, and you get to choose which one you want to carry for the rest of your life. And it was a very powerful thing that he did there. But I also realised that he had done the false ending on me. He literally did the false ending. So I don't know if you've heard of this. There's a really good book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you've read it. I really, really recommend it. So he was in the concentration camps in the Second World War. He survived it and wrote this book about his experiences afterwards. And he speaks in there about a lot of people that he was with that sadly passed away, and other people he was with that didn't. And he said it wasn't necessarily the strongest or toughest that made it through, but it was a certain mindset. But one of the things that he was able to identify was people that attached a false hope with a deadline. And he speaks about one of his friends that had a dream that on his birthday the war would end, and he was convinced this dream was real, and he was energized and enthusiastic and super happy. And when his birthday came and the war didn't end, he passed away the next day. He had attached an endpoint to his hope, and that was really powerful when I read that. And I also, and he's just said, be aware of the things you attach a date to, and have that philosophy ahead of time to be ready and to accept the fact that date might not happen. And this is something which I find occurs again and again in my life. If I'm not prepared, if I'm not switched on to it, if there's something which I'm looking forward to, either it be something that's really good or something that's not so good that I think is going to end at that point, and it doesn't happen, it's one of the ways it can knock me off course. And after kind of speaking yesterday about being aware and switched on the things which can knock us, sometimes it's having this sort of defense ahead of time of knowing the things which do. And I know for me that's one of them. They use this technique in the military. I think it was in David Goggins' book Can't Hurt Me, and Jocko Willink speaks about it as well, Ant Middleton and others. This thing they do in the military of creating a false ending. And I think it was in David Goggins' book when they were at the end of a particularly grueling, multi-week, horrendous, cold, wet, miserable torture when they were training to become SEALs, and they knew they had to just actually make this final one long push, and then they were done. And they did that. They were finished, and they were then taken to the just outside this sort of big barn. The shutters of the doors of this barn were opened, and inside was fresh coffee, cakes, all this amazing food, and they saw this stuff, and they were high-fiving each other. They had actually done it. And then as they drove closer, as they walked closer to this barn, the barn doors closed. A guy, one of the instructors in a Jeep, just pulls in front of them and says, "Tonight is the coldest and wettest and most tired you've ever will be in your life." And then they were taken away. And he said more people quit at that point than any other point because of the perceived ending. So obviously they're extreme examples, but I try, and I really recommend to you guys, I would love your experiences and when you might have found similar. I try and be very open when I think something is coming up, that this potentially could be great, but we'll see. Let's not attach all of our hope to this point, because you set yourself up for when life takes you in a different direction. And I think it's the other thing is when that does happen, it's kind of trying to recognize before you completely lose it that there's an opportunity here to overcome this experience. False endings. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about that, your experiences that you've had in your life when you have attached an endpoint to something and that hasn't happened, and how that's actually kicked you, and that could have a knock-on effect for days or weeks afterwards. So thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow for day 4 of Dreadful Videos.